This video is going to be an audible version of the TWID. I'm going to read out the TWID to you and give you my thoughts. You don't need to watch the video. You can just use it as a audible video, basically, because there's not going to be anything on screen. I'm going to be reading the TWID out to you on my phone. This is a quicker way of me getting it out to you. The important thing is me reading it out and giving you my initial reaction and thoughts on the critical information that is in this TWID. It is a mega TWID. So I'm going to read through it. You don't need to look at anything. Just as I say, you'll be able to just listen to the video, right? So 16th of January, this week in Destiny, we are starting to board the Heresy hype train. While our first TWID back helped us ease into the new year, we've got a flurry of Heresy updates over the next few weeks. Starting with a preview on some big updates coming to abilities. We've also got the dungeon race details as well as the results of the hotly contested Festival of the Lost Armor vote, and let's jump into it. So the topics for this week are as follows: dungeon race details, Heresy abilities update, past is prologue event, Festival of the Lost Armor winners, game to give 2025, hashtag D2 fashion feedback update, new emblem for Skorgan movie of the week entries. So Sundred Doctrine dungeon race. This is all about the dungeon race. I'll stop at any moment where I need to give you my reaction on it. Let's just say Heresy is right around the corner, and with it comes the launch of a new dungeon on Friday, February 7th. Travel to Savathun's throne world and infiltrate Arhulk's pyramid ship in the new dungeon Sundred Doctrine. That's the name of the dungeon, Sundred Doctrine. To celebrate the launch, we're issuing a challenge to the top fire teams in the world with the Sundred Doctrine dungeon race. As we did with Vesper's host, Sundred Doctrine will have contest mode available for the first 48 hours, providing the most difficult version of the dungeon for the race and any brave guardians who want the ultimate challenge. The time around, rather than a podium race, will be looking to crown the single team that rises to the top and finishes first. With that, we are leveling up the reward, creating something memorable and unique to honour the incredible accomplishment of the winning team. That's why for this race, each winning team member will receive the first ever dungeon race trophy. We'll get a glimpse at this new prize as we get closer to the dungeon launch, so stay tuned. So thoughts on the dungeon race thing? Well, I didn't participate in the Vesper's Horse one, so what as a player for me, like, is anyone going to be able to solo flawless within that 48 hour? That's the question that comes to mind straight away, because that never happened with Vesper's Host. Nobody done a solo flawless on contest mode Vesper's Host. Nobody did it. I don't believe it was... Well, it should be possible to do, but no one did it. So my question right away is anyone going to be able to solo flawless this new dungeon during contest mode? That is the question on my lips. Will it be possible? How easy will it be? Chances are that maybe that's probably not the case. So that's my thoughts on it. They're trying to make an event out of dungeon launches, and to be honest, they need to do everything they can to hype the game up. So it's a good thing that they're doing it overall. It kind of ruins the solo flawless though, I think. But solo flawless will be important after the 48 hours if the solo flawless isn't possible. Let's go on to the details of the next things. Oh no, it's still talking about dungeon race. Now let's take a look at some of the final details for the Sundred Doctrine dungeon race details. Contest mode will be enabled for 48 hours. You will be at 1995 power level to be at the cap though. All the encounters are 1995. Entry requirements: assemble a fire team of 3 players and start the Sundred Doctrine in contest mode from the planet system map. All fire team members must own the final shape dungeon key and acquire the Drowning Labyrinth quest to enter the dungeon. Don't worry about the quest. It'll be just some quest you pick off Ikora or the clan or wherever it will be from. It shouldn't be too complicated. That you just pick that up and you go. You pick it up in a few minutes and you go. That's at least how they have worked. Completion criteria: once the final encounter is complete, the fire team must loot the final chest, or their finish may not be recorded. A team's official finish will be recorded when they loot the final chest. At least one member of the fire team must have completed and received loot for every encounter and it must be the first time completing the activity for all members of the fire team. So I don't think you can get somebody who's already done it to help out or something or whatever, right? For the full details on eligibility requirements for the race, check such and such. Check the rules. Contest mode details. For the first 48 hours, will enable contest mode, ramping up the difficulty for brave teams looking to take on the challenge. In contest mode, enemies are more aggressive encounters, feature resurrection tokens, and have an enrage mechanic that limits the number of phases. Or there's the enrage mechanic. This will limit Solar Flawless, won't it? You just won't have the damage to do. We'll have to see how it goes, but I doubt there'll be a Solar Flawless possible on contest mode. Will limit the number of phases or the time players have left to complete it. Also, character power does not provide an advantage above the recommended level. Yeah, you can't overlevel dungeons. It's terrible. It's a bad thing. Contest mode also comes, well, not for contest mode it is. For contest mode, no, it's fine. But for standard dungeons, no, it's a problem. Contest mode also comes with some extra perks to reward your hard work and excellence. Fire teams that manage to conquer Sundry Doctrine in contest mode will earn a special emblem and are guaranteed the dungeon exotic weapon drop. That's critical, because if that weapon is very good, like what Icebreaker is, and you don't do contest, you're going to be farming that dungeon for weeks until you get the gun. So the new exotics from dungeons, the drop rates are very low, even when you complete the triumphs. I know this because it's took me ages to get Icebreaker. I only got Icebreaker, 6 weeks ago? 5 weeks ago, I can't remember when I got it. It was only recently, and I was doing 3 clears a week. So if there's a lesson to be learned from Vesper's Horse, you need to do that dungeon and get it done on contest so you get the exotic right away. Depends on how strong the exotic will be. Chances are that it will be strong because all the dungeon exotics are strong and have been since Witch Queen, really. So follow the dungeon race. Looking to follow the best. I'm not going to cover that. Right, you get it. You're going to follow the dungeon race. You're going to do Evan F, CB Grey, blah, blah, blah. Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. It's just showing you how to follow the race. The Zone team will be streaming from 7 a.m. PT with a pre-show countdown before following the live action from 9 a.m. PT until one team emerges victorious. Viewers can also obtain the Trigonic Amber Emblem by tuning in the stream. We'll share more details in an upcoming update around how we claim it. So I believe that's the stream that CB Grey and Evan F do, where they do commentary on it, which is, it's actually a good little thing that they've got going with that. It is good. So it shows you a picture of the emblem, right? Obviously there's nothing on screen, but it's assumed that you've looked at the TWID. I'm just reading it out to you and then providing thoughts. So this is the kicker. Heresy abilities updates. I haven't read through all of it yet. I've only skimmed it. There's some important information. So how do your all abilities team here? Wow, there's a team dedicated just to abilities? Man, we have a mountain of new abilities content for episode Heresy. Today we're going to look at the changes and additions in 3 broad sections. New Arc Verb Vault Charge. Man, I thought they were going to say Arc Web there. Arc Web used to be an old verb on the 2.0 classes, and a lot of people were upset that Arc Web, the thing, got removed, and they never actually give us that back, although there is Jolt in the game now, I guess. So there's a new verb there for Arc. 3 new aspects added. Now, when I'm initially reading that, I'm like, oh, is that 3 new aspects for Prismatic? Or is that 3 new aspects for light classes? We'll read on to find out. Heresy abilities balance pass. So let's start with the new Arc keyword Bolt Charge, which is featured in some of our new Arc aspects. So here we go. Bolt Charge. This is the description of it. We've had time to sit with the Arc subclasses for some time now and wanted to address a systematic need they had with the reduced number of buffs the damage type has versus others. We wanted to use that space to add something that brought Arc a powerful damage tool which we felt was missing. However, Bolt Charge is a little different mechanically than our previous ones. Okay, let's read on. Bolt Charge is a positive stack and buff that you build upon on yourself over time. Once you reach max charge, your next ability attack will unleash a devastating bolt of Arc Lightning. While you have one or more stacks from any source, aspects, fragments, weapon, perks, etc. So that can be from weapon perks. Dealing damage with any weapon increases your bolt charge stack count. So this isn't just ability based, it's weapon based as well, is what they're saying here. Each time a stack is gained, you gain a chunk of melee energy. At 10 stacks, your bolt charge is ready, and any ability damage, arc or otherwise, it's not just linked to arc here, summons a powerful arc bolt dealing roughly the same amount of damage as a solar ignition with a smaller area of effect. Different from ignition though, bolt charge is tuned to have more consistent and predictable uptime. Let's read on, I'll give you my thoughts. Similar to the addition of frost armor to stasis, with the release of the final shape, we have woven bolt charge into arc and prismatic suites. There you go, so you're getting bolt charge for a prismatic. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing though. Let's go move on. It's going to be as a keyword. The new arc aspects for Striker, Titan and Stormcaller Warlock also feature bolt charge. Please refer to the balance pass section below for full details. We've had fun designing and playing with bolt charge. The loop of gaining a bolt charge stack, building it up through combat and then receiving a big payoff ties deeply into the fantasy of arcs momentum-based gameplay, as well as being deeply tied into arc ecosystem, which has opened new build crafting options consistent with the other damage types. We can't wait to see the new builds and combos players cook up with bolt charge, and as always we will be monitoring feedback and will adjust accordingly. Okay, let's move on to the new subclass aspects. So this all sounds well and good, and it's going to be similar to a Ignition. Ignition builds are strong in Destiny 2 right now. You've got the famous Dawn Chorus Solar Warlock build that I myself made famous. Right? How good? Why is that such a good build? Well, because its Ignition and Scorch damage is very good. It's not just the fact of its Ignitions, it's its Scorch damage via Dawn Chorus. They're given that comparison from Bolt Charge to Ignition damage. So, is there going to be bolt charge builds, per se? Is the damage viable enough? Because if there's one thing I've seen in the game of late, even though Prismatic's very strong in the game, there's one build that nearly competes with Prismatic, and that is Dawn Chorus Solar Warlock build. And that is King of Ignitions. So if they can make bolt charge builds competitive with Prismatic, then the goal will be achieved. This is all based on how effective it's going to be in the game, moment to moment. I'm skeptical still on this bolt charge thing. I haven't read it. It sounds all good, all well and good. But if it's undercooked, they're going to have to do a minor buff. Because that's what they're implying here, is that if it's not strong enough, it sounds like they're going to put it in the game undercooked. Because they said, oh, we'll listen to your feedback, as if to say, oh, well, you know, we're putting, you know, I'm guessing here. I'm not saying exactly, but I'm saying, look, they might bring it in the game undercooked and it might need a buff. All depends. I can't call for a buff that's not in the game yet, but I'm just saying I'm reserving my opinion on this. On the Prowl, all the Night Stalkers, your first on the Prowl is a new void aspect for hunters that embody. By the way, there's videos, so if you go on Destiny 2's channel, it'll show you videos of these new aspects, which I'm not showing in the video. But yeah, we'll read on. That embodies the fantasy of hunting down prey and being rewarded for the kill. On the Prowl, entering invisibility makes a nearby enemy as a priority target for you and your team. Entering invisibility marks a nearby enemy as a priority target for you and your fire team. Alright. Note, this does not enable players to see marked players through walls in the Crucible. Oh, well, that's always good. You don't want that going on. You don't want wall hacks to that degree. Defeating priority targets creates a weakening cloud of smoke that makes you and allies invisible when passing through it. When priority targets are defeated, you and nearby allies gain increased weapon reload speed and stability for a short duration, and are granted grenade melee and class ability energy. There's also a video of that showing you it as well, which again, just go to Destiny 2's official YouTube channel to show you. My first question is, how much is the debuff? So it says that it weakening cloud of smoke. Is that a 15% debuff or a 30% debuff? In my opinion, this needs to match Tractor Cannon this. If it matches Tractor Cannon's debuff percentage, the weakening cloud, via this thing, then it's going to make it somewhat useful in certain aspects of the game. If it's just a everyday debuff, it won't be good enough. because you got debuff on guns. You've got that that weaken and sight perk on the sniper and the fusion and all that stuff. Wither and gaze, you've got wither and gaze. So, you know, how useful will this be? It will only be as useful as how much the damage it offers. It's got to be a good weaken and debuff. I suspect it won't be tractor cannon debuff 30%. It'll be 15, like the rest of the debuffs. But if you can spam this back to back, I suppose, then there's something there. Let's keep reading. The Night Stalker has many ways to go invisible to kick off on the prowl. I suppose it does, so you can spam it, including Vanishing Step, Stylish Executioner, Spectral Blades, Rat King. Hey, I used them all. I even done a solo GM with Rat King, didn't I? I've done a solo GM with Spectral Blades. I use Stylish Executioner. I use Vanishing Step. I use all this stuff that they're mentioning. So yeah, you could. This is good, I suppose. When that happens, a nearby non-boss target will be highlighted for you and your fire team. Once the highlight tag has been defeated by you or anyone in your fire team, the entire fire team is granted a stack of Successful Hunt, a buff that grants weapon reload speed and stability bonuses along with a small chunk of melee grenade energy and class ability energy. Successful Hunt can also stack up to 3 times. This is good. It's giving you all that ability energy. This will just allow you to have a playback loop of Invis on the prowl, Invis on the prowl, with this Successful Hunt perk thing going on in the mix. Also, when a highlighted target is defeated, a weakening cloud of smoke is created that will make you and your nearby allies that pass through it invisible. That's good, thus meeting the condition for activating on the prowl again. What we envisioned for this aspect was to embody what if it means to be a void hunter. To us, it was important to reflect the fantasy of bounty hunter. On the prowl works well with the entire Night Stalker kit and allows your allies in on the fun for a short time. Even Warlocks and Titans can feel what it's like to be a bounty hunter. Wait, didn't we ship a bounty hunter gun too? Curious. Wait, didn't we ship a bounty hunter gun too? So this is going to be exclusive for Void Night Stalker hunters, which is good. So basically, a lot of this is indirect buffs to light classes, which what have I been saying for weeks? I've been months now at this point. They need to buff light subclasses, and they got indirect buffs because of the super recharge buff, but that didn't move the dial far enough. Prismatic is still an issue on Warlock, Titan or Hunter. It's an issue on all of them in terms of that it's the best by a huge distance. We're not just talking 10% gains or 20% gains. The difference between a prismatic class and a light class is probably somewhere between 70 to 100% in gains, because you've got 2 bars. You've got Transcendence, you've got Super, you've got Devour, you've got Radiant, you've got Restoration, you've got Frost Armor, Woven Mail. You've got all this stuff at your in your kit. So it didn't move the dial. Now, will this move the dial? Well, it depends on what they do to Prismatic. We'll read on. So the Storm's Keep is another one, another aspect. Remember, these aren't fragments, they're aspects. Just remember that, because it means you're going to have to get rid of one of your fragments, aspects that you like. So it's not all what it's cracked up to be. You're going to have to, depending on what class that we're talking about, you might have to take Electrostatic Mind off or something and put something else on, or you might have to take Arc Soul off, to put this fragment on. So there is that to consider. Remember, they're not fragments, they're aspects. So this is actually Striker Titan, sorry. So Striker, you're up. Stormkeep is a new class ability focus aspect for Arc Titans that utilizes Bolt Charge to its fullest potential. Cast your class ability to grant a moderate number of Bolt Charge stacks to you and nearby allies. When behind your barricade, you and allies gain stacks of Bolt Charge over time, and any weapon damage will discharge max stacks of Bolt Charge. This already sounds strongest on Titan, this buff, because you're getting it passively. Anytime there's a buff that's passively getting to you is always the best perk in slot. It's always about practicality. The more practical your build is, the more aggressive you can play. If your build is too finicky, too French, too tablecloth build type thing, then you're having to work so much harder for your build. Let the build work for you by giving you passive buffs. This is a passive buff. So this sounds good. We wanted to do a few things with this aspect for strikers. We wanted to create an opportunity for barricade to be used offensively, and we wanted to capitalise on what bolt charge can provide. We envision strikers pushing forward on the battlefield and using their class abilities to cement themselves in the spear in any fire team. Again, there's a video on YouTube to check that out. Cast and Thruster, this is important. Cast and Thruster or barricade will give you and nearby allies a good chunk of bolt charge stacks. So you can at least use Thruster with this. And the melee energy that comes with bolt charge, you get a melee energy back. If you opt for the barricade version sounds better than Thruster. That is important. The barricade version sounds stronger than Thruster, which is good. So if you opt for the barricade version, stand behind the barricade will grant additional bolt charge stacks over time. Thruster will not do this. So you will want to run Rally Barricade, not Towering. Sometimes we run Towering, sometimes we don't, but generally speaking, you'll be a Rally Barricade. It's on a shorter cooldown as well. Once you're at full stacks, any weapon damage you deal with while standing behind your barricade will also cash in bolt charge, from your weapons and stuff, right? Calling down a lightning bolt at your target's location. Standard bolt charge allows you to call down lightning by dealing ability damage, but with Storm's Keep you can call down lightning just by shooting enemies while behind your barricade. This is especially important with Rally Barricade as it allows multiple bolts from you and your allies provide solid boss damage. So imagine in a raid DPS group of 6 using this. So it'll be the similar effect to what Arc Soul does, but better. It'll be better than that, of course. Not to mention, solo-wise, right, that's how I'm looking at this. Is it going to be viable solo-wise? And we'll have to look into that. We're excited to see how players build craft around bolt charge and Stormkeep to maximise damage and add to Striker's legacy as the hit fast, hit hard subclass. I feel as though what they should have done as well is buff Storm Grenades with Touch of Thunder on Striker Titan. They should have done that with this. I think that would have been the icing on top. Maybe they have, I don't know, because I haven't read it all yet. Ionic Sentry. This is the next aspect. This is the Warlock aspect. Again, there's a video on YouTube to check it out. We're just going to come out and say it. Everyone loves buddies, and Arc Soul was begging us for a sibling. Behold, we have found a Ionic Sentry, our new Arc aspect for Stormcaller Warlocks. This sounds like an Arc turret. We've got Stasis turret, Solar turret, Void turret. Well, Void Soul, but same thing. Now we're getting an Arc turret. That's what it sounds like. Ionic Sentry. Defeat targets with Arc abilities or weapons to charge up any Ionic Sentry. Activate Grenade. Deploy a powerful Arc turret. So you consume your grenade, which blinds on impact and sends out bolts of lightning that chain to nearby enemies and grant stacks of bolt charge when it defeats enemies. This will be very good. Any turret in this game's good. All of the turrets are good for Warlock. Solar turret, healing turret. The game's just really good for turrets. And I can't see why this wouldn't be good. Is Prismatic getting it? That's the question. Stormcallers are masterful at challenging Arc energy, reshaping and redeploying it to cause mayhem on the battlefield. With Ionic Sentry, Stormcallers have harnessed Arc energy and collapsed it into a perfect orb of Hurricane and Harmony. Once it is charged up through Arc ability and weapon kills, you gain access to Ionic Sentry as a special grenade throw, similar to... so you don't consume your grenade, you just throw it, I guess. Similar to... it's like a gunpowder gamble, so you're not consuming your grenade. So you're in fact getting a turret and your own nade that you've chose, whether it be pulse nade, storm grenade, whatever it is. It's like gunpowder gamble for gunslingers. When it first lands on the battlefield, Ionic Sentry will blind any enemy nearby enemies and begin to chain lightning between enemies, dealing damage. When Ionic Sentry defeats any target, you will gain a stack of bolt charge, making it a great way to build up bolt charge stacks quickly. Just quick note on that, if you run Spark of Beacons with Indebted Kindness, that would be very good with this build, because not only that, Indebted Kindness when amplified will blind all enemies because of Spark of Beacons. That is a fragment that you would use with this. For example, in our playtest, Ionic Sentry has been a favourite of Stormcallers, providing much needed area control during combat and access to potent damage through bolt charge. The build crafting paths for Stormcaller are much wider with Ionic Sentry in the mix, and we're excited to see where players take it. As always, we're so excited to get these aspects into player hands, and we'll be keeping an eye on feedback. This sounds like it's Arc Warlock Pacific, and Prismatic Warlock is not getting this. They have not said Prismatic Warlock is getting this, so I can only say that it must be Arc dependent then. Some people won't like that if that's the case. If that is the case, they haven't exclusively said, have they? So Heresy balance changes. With the big ticket items out of the way, let's take a look at upcoming changes to tried and true abilities in the Sandbox. Our primary focus for the release is Arc abilities, but there are several non-Arc changes as well. So this is your balance, what they're going to be doing for Heresy. Hunter first. Temper Strike, new additional effect added. Killing any jolted target grants a stack of bulk charge. Temper Strike isn't good in PvE and it needs a damage buff. So, yeah, they have increased damage against PvE enemies by 57%. There you go. So it's getting a damage bonus. Remember, damage bonuses in Destiny 2, they multiply. They're not additive. So it's saying 57%, but we need to see in-game exactly how that would work and whether it's worth to run a Temper Strike build on Arc Hunter. I would suggest that it's probably not the case because we have so much other things on Arc Hunter. But you know, there's lethal current, there's the flow state, whatever it's called. You know, there's some things going on Arc Hunter where if Temper Strike still isn't potent enough, then I wouldn't use it. But we have to see. Disorienting Blow now grants a moderate amount of bulk charge stacks when dealing damage with Disorienting Blow. Disorienting Blow blinds champs. It is absolutely an endgame melee option that you want to use on Arc Hunters, and you've saw me use that. Disorienting Blow now deals significant damage in an area around the target hit instead of just single target damage. Disorienting Blow might be very good, honestly, people. Arc Staff. Reflecting attack will grant a stack of bulk charge. So there is that exotic helmet that reflects damage, but I have already tested that it's not worth to use it, and I suspect that it still won't be worth to use it, even if you get bulk charges. Reason being is because you can get bulk charges with your weapons. They've already said that. So I can't see that being anything, so don't read into that too much. Ascension. Increased fragment slots to free on Arc. Note, Ascension, so that's only on Arc, that's not Prismatic, it's only on Arc. Note, Ascension was already granting free fragment slots on Prismatic. Oh, okay. It's just a minor buff. Activating Ascension will now activate the effects from the following abilities: Gambler's Dodge, Marksman's Dodge, Empowering Dodging, and Fretted Spectre. So activating Ascension will now activate the effects from... So it'll be a Gambler, it'll do Gamblers, Marksman's, and Empowering, and Fretted Spectre. We don't plan to make Ascension activate every Hunter class ability perk, but we may add more interactions in the future. That's kind of confusing. I need to think about what they've said about that, but I'll move on. Threadrunner. Threadrunner. Ensnare and Slam. Activating Ensnare and Slam will now activate the effects from the following abilities: Gambler's Dodge, Marksman's Dodge, and Fretted Spectre. Note, we don't plan to make Ensnare and Slam affect every Hunter class ability perk, but we may add more interactions in the future. That's the Slam that suspends targets. And it's decent. I have used it in solo GM environments, and it is good, especially if you're not running Shackle Grenade and you want some other way, or you maybe want to double up on Shackle plus Ensnare and Slam. So this is good. Fretted Spectre. Increase the clone's PvE damage resistance from 40% to 70%. This is a good change because Fretted Spectre it is good and it does misdirect the ads and it does its job. But Winter Shroud's just that much better than it. So that might not be the case now with this resistance thing. It might last a little longer, but it's only a 30% buff. It's not that much, so it might not move the needle enough. Titans. So this is all Titan subclasses, it says. All Titan subclasses are getting affected by the following changes. Barricade. Increased damage resistance versus combatant splash damage attacks when standing behind barricade from 60% to 80%. Taunt strength and range no longer fall off range over time. Yeah, people, I don't understand. Titan mages all run on Thruster, and Thruster's good and all for ability buildcraft and because of the amount of Thrusters you get. But Barricade is so strong in PvE right now, and I think people are sleeping on that. A lot of Titan mains are sleeping. I guess because you're doing your consecration slamming and you don't have time to pop a Barricade, that is why. But Barricade is going to become more of the meta. Oh, my thing went off there. So, yeah, it's going to become more of the meta. So, we have... So, that's a huge buff for Barricades. Again, you pair that with the bulk charge aspect thing for Titan, then it's going to be really good. So, Striker, Juggernaut. So, this is the Juggernaut aspect, which is in need of a massive buff. Let's see what they've done with it. While Juggernaut Shield is active, players now have splash damage resistance. 60% splash damage resistance in PvE. 10% in PvP. So you have splash damage resistance, which happens a lot in endgame stuff. The only problem with the Juggernaut thing is the overshield isn't that strong. Let's read on what it says. While the Juggernaut shield is active, players now have 10% damage resistance versus PvE combatants, which is stackable, by the way. It's stacked with other resistance mods. When the Juggernaut shield blocks damage, players are granted a stack of bulk charge. So that's kind of good. There might be some strat here where you can run around with Striker Titan, get that damage resistance, get bulk charges for free while you're running around. So there's some little build going on with that. You compare that with some other exotic boots for the Titan, for example. Let's move on. Ballistic Slam. Sprint time requirement before activation significantly reduced. Damage now scales based on distance travel. Damage versus PvE combatants increased by 30%. This should have been higher than 30%. Ballistic Slam was useless. Not even one shot in a red barred enemy in GM environment. Wasn't good. And the 30% might be enough to one shot a red bar, but it won't be enough to one shot an orange bar. And the 30% buff for Ballistic Slam probably isn't enough. It should have been 50 or maybe even 70. Let's see what else it says. Each enemy damaged by Ballistic Slam grants a stack of bulk charge, up to the max of 10 stacks if you manage to hit 10 targets with a single activation. So there's a little build going on there, the fact that you can instantly get bulk charges, so there may be something around that. That could be good with Insurmountable Skullfort, because if you didn't know, if you use a arc melee ability and you get a kill, you get it back. But you gotta get that kill. So this is gonna be life or death on whether it does enough damage in endgame. And if it doesn't, then all of this text I've just told you will fall down. It all depends. 30% is not enough of a damage bonus. It should have been higher, but we'll see how it plays out in game. Sentinel, Unbreakable aspect. Increase the rate that the Unbreakable offensive throw charges up when blocking damage. Okay, so that's a little buff there. Increase max damage dealt from the offensive throw by 20%. Increase the health pool of the shield, make it less likely to break when under heavy fire. Increase the void overshield charge rate while holding the shield. Throw now costs half of grenade energy charge instead of a full charge. While Sentinel Shield is equipped, Orb of Power creation cooldown increased from 1 second to 4.5 seconds. Note, Unbreakable has received a significant buff here. We want it to be strong, but we'll be monitoring it closely to make sure we haven't gone too far. Ward of Dawn Bubble Titan. Ward of Dawn now does a weakening pulse when the ward is created. That is huge. So the Unbreakable aspects are nice. I can't really comment too much. There's too much to say about it. I would wait to see what it's like in game. But the Ward of Dawn thing, the weakening pulse, again, if that offers... Well, no, it's not going to be Tractor Cannon debuff, is it? It's going to be a 15% debuff, a usual weakening. But I tell you what's so good about that. Weapons of Light stacks with weakening debuffs. So you're going to get a buff and a debuff via Ward of Dawn. Now, if people saw the Skolos fight recently, you'll know that people have been using Ward of Dawn on the boss to stop him from being healed. I want to see Ward of Dawn back in rotation of it being used in the game again. Because it's sad to see it not being used. Now, will that make people use it? Yes, because it's offering you a debuff and a buff, and it'll all depend on you know, what the new encounters are like in the game against what bosses. But don't be sleeping on Water Dawn. Sometimes, like this week taught us, sometimes you need a bubble. And in the Scores fight, people needed a bubble. Sunbreaker Consecration. So, reduce Scorch... Here we go, this is a Consecration thing. Reduce Scorch Wave and Slam Wave damage in PvE by 55%. Consecration Titan mains, where you at? Where are you at with this? Let's see. Note, when reviewing the damage cost ratio for certain abilities, it became clear the Consecration was doing too much for too little. We don't want to take away from the dramatic pop moment of landing both waves on a target though, so we kept its increased ignition bonus and instead reduced the wave damage. We suspect we may also need to adjust the ignition damage in the future. So, Consecration's finally getting looked at. What did I tell everyone about the Consecration? This is going to affect Prismatic Titan as well. It says Sunbreaker, but that will affect Prismatic Titan because Prismatic Titans run Consecration. So surely it's going to affect that as well. It will do. They can't just nerf it on Solar and keep it OP on Prismatic. The problem with that is the wave damage isn't that much anyways. It was always about the ignition. The ignition will give you your damage anyways. So they may need to move the needle again on that. But this is proof that they will have Prismatic Titan in line before June 2025. So Prismatic Warriors, you may need to start listening to my light subclass expertise, because when your Prismatics fall down on you, who do you look to as a mentor for the light subclasses? Well, Zavala won't tell you. You might have to come over to me and ask me questions. Warlock Stormcaller Storm Trance. Increased non-champion PvE damage by 20%. That was needed. Storm Trance is still weak. Well, no, it's not weak. It's slightly undercutting par still. Oh, here we go. Chaos Reach. Increased non-damage PvE damage by 15%. So, that again, that's not champ damage, right? But it does already enough damage. Chaos Reach is insane in the game right now. So there may be a build on that. Well, there always is a build on Chaos Reach, especially with Geomags. Lightning Surge. Removed, amplified on cast. Now grants a stack of Bolt Charge for each enemy hit with Lightning Surge. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 30%. Like I said, there's going to be a lot more arc builds because of all this stuff going on. And the Bolt Charge is interesting. Void Walker. Handheld Supernova Chaos Accelerant Magnetic Grenade variant. So if you run a magnetic grenade and you run handheld supernova, this is what's going to happen. Increase total projectile count from 5 to 9. Increase the width of cone blast radius by roughly 2 meters. Increase the height of cone blast by 1 meter. Reduce projectile damage in PvP from 20 to 15 per projectile to account for additional projectiles. To note, adding 4 projectiles in potentially a substantial damage increase, but due to the increased size of the cone's blast, all projectiles won't land on single smaller targets. This means PvP potency should remain similar, but in PvE, this becomes a much more reliable ad clear tool or single target burst damage option against larger targets. I have not used handheld supernova since 2018. So we'll have to see how that pairs out. The only thing about the handheld supernova is you're going to go so close to the ads, but you have got a Devour procced. You should be obviously using Devour on a Void Walker, so you can go up to the ads and start doing some chain killing. So there may be some build for this. All classes, Solar. So this is all characters. Radiant, damage bonus reduced from 25% to 20% in PvE. Will of Radiance damage bonus remains unchanged. So they buffed well. They've buffed well there because they've nerfed Radiant, which they didn't need to nerf Radiant there. They've nerfed it by 5%, but they've said, okay, but if you want to run the absolute Radiant build, then you do it on well. I guess that is an indirect nerf to Song of Flame, because Song of Flame provides Radiant. But it's only 5%, but I'm kind of annoyed that they've done that. I don't like that. Because they're trying to incentivize wells. Why? Try and incentivize bubbles more. I know that they're doing some work for bubbles, but they didn't need to do that. Stasis Frost Armor. Increased damage resist per stack from 4.5% to 6.25%. Frost Armor was already very good. All max stacks DR goes from 36 to 50%. Note, this changes PvE only. PvP values remain unchanged, of course. Frost Armor is already fantastic in the game, although the artifact mods that are on the season now are going to be going away for Heresy, so Frost Armor is going to get a slight nerf because we lose mods, but it's going to get a buff because we're losing those mods, if that makes sense. So there's two things going on here at once. If you don't know what I'm on about, then I'll just go on my artifacts and you'll explain. Look, there's all these Frost Armor mods up here, while Frost Armor is active and all this stuff. Right, that's what I'm exactly going about. That stuff's going to be leaving the game for Heresy. Amplified on Arc. While amplified, PvE combatants are now less accurate against you. This is similar to how the Manticore's exotic effect works while in the air. While amplified, players now have 15% damage resistance against PvE combatants. This is insane, and there's loads of Arc builds. I'm the king of Arc builds. I've got a build for every single one, multiple variants of Warlock, Titan Hunter. I've got multiple, and I'm already forming in my mind on how many different Arc builds there actually will be. And because of that PvE resistance that it's just mentioned, that's going to be nuts. Because resistance is stackable. It's a stackable thing in the game. It stacks with everything. Resistance mods always have done. It's only buffs and debuffs that are finicky on the stacking thing. Spark of Discharge. Added effect. Picking up an Ionic Trace grants a stack of Bolt Charge. That's insane because there's loads of Ionic Trace builds. Spark of Momentum. Added effect. Sliding over ammo bricks now also grants a stack of Bolt Charge. Remove the bespoke melee energy bonus from sliding over ammo bricks since each stack of Bolt Charge comes with bonus melee energy. Reduce the amount of time you need to be sliding to activate Spark of Momentum. This should make it so that if you start your slide on the ammo brick, Spark of Momentum will activate instead of previously needing to slide into the brick after roughly 0.75 seconds. I don't use that perk at all. Sliding over bricks, no, it's alright. Spark of Frequency. Added effect. While amplified, gain a bonus stack of Bolt Charge from all sources in addition to previous effect. Okay. Spark of Volts. Finishes grant a stack of Bolt Charge in addition to grant amplified. That is a good buff, because it's so easy to get finished kills in PvE. Spark of Ions, a big one. Added effect. Targets defeated with Bolt Charge will also make an Ionic Trace in addition to previous effect. So Spark of Ions is going to be even better. It's good now in the game. It's so good now in the game. It's only going to get better. Prismatic. Facet of Hope. Can now be activated by Bolt Charge. Facet of Purpose. Now grants a stack of Bolt Charge on orb pickup when an Arc Super is equipped instead of granting amplified. Again, that depends. So this is allowing you to run a Bolt Charge build on Prismatic, which is important. Facet of Sacrifice can now be activated via Bolt Charge. So let's go on to what, I don't want this video to be too long. I know it's going to be long because it's a massive TWID this. So that is your balance update. So they are buff and light subclasses. They are giving you more stuff, but they are also adding some stuff to Prismatic as well. Not all of it. Like on the Prowl is Void exclusive, for example. Bolt Charge isn't. You are going to be allowed to run Bolt Charge on Prismatic. The problem is Bolt Charge going to be better on Arc strictly as opposed to Prismatic? Maybe. So modifiers. We're moving topic now. Brawn. Tuned healing sources to better balance the health economy when this modifier is active. Right. I don't know what that is about the Brawn. That's very cryptic. I don't understand what they're saying with that. Because Brawn's an OP mod. It needs nerfed. If anyone knows about Birthplace of the Vile this season, then you'll know what I'm on about. So I'm not 100% what they're going on about with that. And that's all we have for Heresy. We're looking forward to jumping into the game with all of you and for you to get hands-on with all of these changes and additions. Please keep the feedback coming and we will see you soon. Passage Prologue starts next week, so let's see what this is. As we enjoy the final weeks of Revenant, we have one final celebration. It's a prologue of sorts, leading into Heresy, where we get a chance to see what life in the universe is like when there aren't any gods around for us to slay. This time we spent a few quiet moments with Eris and the Drifter, remembering how far we've come and answering the age-old question, can pineapples bloom on the battlefield? If you have played Raven's Last Wishes last year, the flow of the event will feel familiar. Starting on January 21st, you can visit the Drifter to pick up quests that will reward a special currency called Bent O tokens. These tokens can be exchanged for some, if we do say ourselves, pretty snazzy rewards over at Eris. Throughout the event, you'll have to have a chance to earn a total of 8 bento tokens. So spend wisely and make them count. Next, let's check out what you'll use to spend them on. So Ascendant Alloys, you get 2 Ascendant Alloys for 1 token, 2 Ascendant Shards for 1 token. Exotic Cipher, that's a good one because exotic ciphers are limiting in the game. There is bottles that you can pop to get ciphers, but this is nice that you can get ciphers via this. It's 1 token each. Or Spoils of Conquest, that's huge. So you can get 25 mats of Spoils of Conquest for 1 token. Max 3 times. So you can get 75 spoils for free for this event. Mementos. 1 Gambit Memento for 1 token. 1 token for Vanguard Memento. Then there's Iron Banner 1. Festival of Lost Memento 1. Dawning Memento 1. Guardian Games Memento 1. Solstice Memento 1. Weapons and Armor. There's a lot here. Cloud Strike. You can get Cloud Strike for 3 tokens. You can get Cataract GL, Adept, a fixed roll with Linear Compensator, Alloy Case, and Envious Assassin, Bait and Switch, and Velocity Masterwork for 1 token. I will be buying that. That is huge. They're giving you God rolls for this event. Igneous Hammer, fixed roll, Flared Magwell, Fluted Barrel, Fragile Focus, Precision Instrument, Range Masterwork. That is a PvP thing, I think. You can get one of those. Horror's Least. These are all 1 tokens. Horror's Least, Adept. I'll just name the perks. Perpetual Motion, Kill Clip, Stability Masterwork. That's a PvP weapon. Riptide, Adept. Riptide Adept? The Fusion Rifle. You can get an Adept Riptide with Chill Clip, Compulsive Reloader, Enhanced Battery, and Charge Time Masterwork. That is going to be a must pick up because Riptide Adept does not exist. Only till now that it does. Hunter Artifice Armor, 2 tokens. High stat roll of your choice, whatever you focus it to be. And that's the same for Titan, and that's the same for Warlock. Chatter White Shader, and to make it even sweeter, once you have turned in 5 tokens, you'll gain access to something as precious and the pale as the moon. That's right, Chatter White is coming back as a reward for participating in the event. The past prologue event will only be around for 2 weeks, so don't waste any time. Make sure you spend all your tokens at the start, before the start of Heresy. So then there's the Festival of the Lost vote, and I'm not going to comment because, you know, there's a lot. I'm just going to move swiftly on because this is turning out to be too long. In addition to the runner-up entries for the year's vote being developed, we've also been releasing the runner-up wizards from last year's vote during Heresy. Keep an eye out for availability. We mentioned last week that we don't have plans to revisit vote and runners-up. Okay, I'm going to skip this stuff because I'm honestly not interested in any of that. Then there's the game to give thing, which is a good scheme. Have a read of it yourself. Then there's a D2 fashion feedback this week. The fashion doesn't stop with Festival of Lost voting. We've also got a hashtag D2 fashion feedback update this week. The themes this week range from classic styling with Galactic Monarch and Frost King to colourful and build options with cyber, streetwear and music festival designs. So you can have a read through this. That's all, you know. It's the game to give thing. You have a read of that. Let's move on swiftly. Dramatic music. Kel's Fall, our latest exotic mission, has a ton going for it. Story base is a conclusion to the Revenant storyline. Some amazing conversations between characters, although we still think Eramis was very rude to Varix. And of course, our latest exotic weapon, Slayer's Fang. But many of you have focused on very specific aspect of the mission, the Skorgan. We loved it so much that we have something more for our musically inclined Guardians. Those of you with fine-tuned ear and a very quick draw, here's the music of Mercury Emblem, where you are granting both the movie of the week and the music memory emblem, not only to those of you who make the videos playing the Skorgan starting today, but also those who have already invested hours in it. That's to do with the organ thing from Kel's Fall and the secret boss that you can spawn in, which you need to do at the end of the minor or the major field work or whatever. Okay, so that's just all that stuff. You can read all that. Player support. This TWID is huge. This past, so update 8.1.5.3. This past Tuesday update went live with a number of fixes and sandbox balance updates. This included re-enabling Shadow Keep Super, Shadow Shot Super in Vesper's Host and Baladros Weavers across the game. To read the full details, everything has changed. Check out the last patch note. Slayer's Fang self-damage. We've seen conversations around Slayer's Fang's ability to do self-damage and apply weaken to yourself. If you're hit by the ricocheting projectiles, note the weakening is only applied while Knight's Worm Sight is active. While the self-damage always happens, this is intentional for both gameplay and narrative reasons, and we wanted to give a bit of insight into our process. A lot of ricochet projectiles or explosions do self-damage. Sleeper Simulink can even kill the user. And it's important balancing measure if you are taking a cheeky shot around a corner or just firing from the hip. The self-damage provides a balance to ensure high-risk, high-reward usage. On the narrative side, Slayer's Fang is aware of its use as a tool of destruction and doesn't lend its power to its wielders easily. You may find that if you mishandle Slayer's Fang, the gun with a mouth or a barrel may just bite back a little bit. With the ultimate Slayer Baron weapon in your hand, you may not fear dreams nor teeth, but you will want to handle with care. So appropriate for its design and narrative goals, Slayer's Fang does a little damage plus a short weakening instead of outright killing the player. As always, we are happy to see the feedback and continue to adjust the Sandbox atoms accordingly. So the Slayer's Fang self-damage thing, I don't know why people make an issue about it. I've used the gun in endgame and the gun's fine. It doesn't really kill you that much. That was really taken out of context by some other YouTubers who made a video about it. What my problem with the gun was that the Overlord champs wouldn't heal properly. They would heal back and they wouldn't get stunned by the gun. That was my main issue with the gun. It wasn't that it done self-damage. There's loads of guns in the game that do self-damage. Loads of them. Known issues. Kel's Fall, only one player in a fire team receives credit for destroying the illusionary anchor. Kel's Fall during the boss fight, sometimes the portal back to Revenant plane doesn't open when multi-phasing the boss, leading to a softlock. I have not experienced that yet. Kel's Fall, the 4 exotic class catalysts quest for the Slayer's Fang shotgun requires players to defeat enemies with a tonic active, but progress is only counting Revenant seasonal objectives. Kel's Fall, the exotic mission in Fire Team Finder, doesn't apply the different weeks of the mission. Kel's Fall, the score gun melodies triumph sometimes doesn't track all melodies. Slayer's Fang stuns Overlord champs as intended, but does not prevent them from healing, which is unintended. Exactly, so they haven't sorted that bit out. Slayer's Fang's fantastic, but it needs to be able to stun Overlords properly. That means you need to run a build with double Overload in it to ensure that you will kill that champ. I'm talking strictly solo here, not Fire Team. Some major field work dialogue are incorrectly being used at the end of some of the missions. The requirements for the seasonal quest Reborn are too high. Vesper's Host, sometimes the final boss doesn't spawn and players are forced to wipe for the encounter to start. This is still a thing that happened to me ages ago, months ago at this point. Vesper's Host, some players cannot complete Step 7 of the Rogue Network quest as they cannot interact with or open the second chest. Vesper's Host players who are usable to complete Step 6 or the Rogue Network quest may have already completed the puzzle and just need to claim the collectible. Vesper's Host players cannot dunk the nuclear core in the bunker if the corrupted puppeteer's wipe mechanic starts when the core drops. So then you've got Artist of the Week. You've got a movie of the week at the end. That is the TWID. I'm not reading anymore because that's too much for me at that point. So yeah, they're buffing light things. Consecration got a nerf. They're adding a load of new aspects to the game. Not one for solo though. It's just Arc, Void. But there's a lot of, this isn't just, these fragments are different. The Bolt Charge one in Pacific, that has the power of 2 fragments in one. So it's going to be absolutely worth it to run these new fragments because they're more powerful. I can already tell you by reading them on paper, they're more powerful than what we've already got on the light subclasses. Not only that, Prismatic has access to use Bolt Charge, etc. Not the Void one though. The Void one's exclusive to Nightstalker as far as I've read that. So that was the patch notes and the TWID thing. Not the patch notes, but the TWID. Huge TWID. This is what they should have done last week. It would have honestly eased a lot of people. They were a week late with this, right? Because last week's TWID was horrendous. This week's TWID's very good. This is what they should have just come out the gate and said to ease players' sentiment. that was the video on this, or the audible version of the TWID. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.